Welcome back, ladies and gents, to this exclusive episode of Poker Gauntlet. BenaBadBeat joins me once again in the studio. So far, he has done 5 hands. We've analysed them. He scored 6, 6, 7, 9, and 3. Ben, how are you doing today?
I am good. I'm pretty upset about the 3, but I've only got myself to blame, so hopefully I can pick it up on the back 5.
Generally speaking, when we go bet against nittier players, okay, you didn't know that at the time, we don't really want to check Call the River with bluff catchers on that line, even at 1k NL. I learned last time that read sort of permeates all the way through the stakes. If you didn't see that hand, check it out. Check it out, guys. And for everything else from us, of course, it's carrotcorner.com. Don't forget to look into the Carrot Poker School if you want to build your theoretical foundation. But let's get started. Let's get back into the gauntlet today. We have Pocket Kings here, Ben. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
The formula is, I award a score, I analyse the hand, I give Ben the right to appeal, he can make his case. So far, Ben has not really been appealing much. He did appeal his score downwards once in episode 1, but not a lot of appealing, so maybe we'll get into more arguments today. Open Kings, 3-bet, and we 4-bet villain calls. Is this a reg or fish, or do you know?
It's a purple tag, which is like potential reg, but like reg on probation.
Cool. We go small. In the 4-bet pot, villain calls. We check the turn. Okay, so we have the toppest of sets, which means that villain's range is now a bit more ace-queen heavy, queen-jack heavy, jack-10 heavy maybe, pocket 10s heavy, pocket jacks heavy. The more I think about this, the more I wonder if this card actually... The more I wonder about the fact that, like, by having 2 kings here, are we pushing villain just, like, really far towards, like, the second pair, third pair kind of region? And if so, are they actually likely to reopen here with that region? Like, is this actually a spot where by having the toppest 2 cards, we do actually encourage lots of bluffing to happen? I'm not so sure. I'm not sure there are, like, lots of low EV hands here that invest when checked to that don't invest when they face a bet. So I would bet the turn small with this hand, personally. Villain shoves, we call. And villain has the nuts. Right. Yeah. I kind of don't like it, Ben. I kind of don't like the turn check because, like, I get it that you have top set and you do need to be checking, like, a bunch here with your range. I do get that. I just wonder if people are going to muster the bluffs in this sort of situation, or whether it might just be better to make sure pot growth happens against that live pair plus redraw sort of hand that you actually unblock here. Do you want to appeal the first score of this video, which is going to be a 4 out of 10?
I would only say that the reason I've checked the turn is because they are hyper aggressive, and that's the only reason. So I think I just have to agree that it's a clear, like, such a like unbelievably clear turn barrel in normal circumstances. But reg on probation, also known to be very, very splashy. I didn't expect to see a turn shove, I won't lie, but that was the only reason I decided to check the turn. Like, absolutely just having everything locked down on the board. But I do think that if I do bet spool, they are probably just going to have to continue with, like, most of the hands that they call the flop with. So it could still just be the best play, you know. So
okay, so let me ask you.
Get behind it.
Let me ask you. I'm doing my coaching gig here, by the way, guys. As we know, Ben is a very strong poker player. He's a high stakes player, and I'm not claiming that I am superior to Ben, but I am playing the role of the coach today. And you guys can say this is a joke, or this guy thinks he can educate us. Like, you can do that in the comments if you want, but you're just ruining it for everyone and no one cares what you think. So, with that disclaimer out of the way, what I want to say here is, what I want to ask you is, do you think that the hands that bluff the turn are going to invest more against check by the end of the hand than those same hands would if you were to lead the turn? Like, do you think there's a realm where, like, he has jacks and decides to actually, like, try to make you fold ace, queen, ace, king and shoves? Is that kind of what we're going at there? Whereas if you bet turn, shove, river, he
Yeah.
just folds jacks by the river.
On average, I think no. But I think this player perhaps. But do not feel strongly about that, which probably suggests that they are going to underinvest and defend more and put in more money versus betting than they are when check to. So yeah, I think this is just a poorly played hand overall.
Okay,
actually,
I'll leave it as a 4. I don't think it's like terrible, but I do think and I do think you've got some justification for it. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it as a 4. Okay.
Sure.
And number 7, this would be? Yeah. All right. King 8 suited. Flanking big blind, 8-3-3. Check, small, call. Reads here. Let's just get into the habit of me getting the player profile just before I get too far into it. Okay.
A reg that's like capable.
Okay. We check. And villain goes for big bet. Looks like it's probably a call in theory. I don't think we're folding this sort of combo yet. That would be a bit absurd. And the 8 is... Yeah, okay, spoiler alert, like I kind of did see the action sequence for this as I was selecting it. I tried to like remain objective and not scrutinize the play when I was selecting the hands. I was just making sure they looked relatively interesting. But I do think I remember a donk bet on this river, which I like. Yeah, so we just have a massive monopoly on 8x here. Villain has it's such an asymmetrical spot, right, where villain has all the overpairs, the value region, is probably not going to bluff very frequently if checked to, or invest very frequently at all if checked to, therefore you build a donk bet. It's such a lopsided version of this paradigm that the big donk bet actually makes sense a lot of time when this is the case in theory. The small donk bet is used, right? But this is such an extreme version of it that I actually think the big bet is good here. I really, really like this. I don't even care much for like your combo or whatever. Villain shoves, he's saying he's got quad 3s or 9s full, and to fold an 8 here would be an absolutely Herculean and maybe insane action. We don't fold an 8, okay. We run into 9s full, kind of like the expected value hand. I love this hand. I want to give this hand, because I love the sizing used on the river as well. I think it's really, really good. Okay, I want to give this hand a 8 out of 10.
I think you should give me a 7. And I think that the reason you should give me a 7 is because I should fold the river.
Oh, really? Right.
I think. Yeah. So I agree. Flop standard, turn, like not ideal spot on the turn. They've c-bet 3-way on the flop, remember?
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm not really, I don't want to fold my combo. I think folding is out of the question.
Mm-hmm.
I think river, I agree. I think identifying good donk size on the river is very important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do this with pocket 3s. I'm going to do this with 9-8, and I'm going to do this with my 8x. I just have the monopoly on the 8x for sure. When they shove after I bet 2/3 pot, I don't think they expect me to fold an 8. So they are disincentivized to shove an 8 to potentially win half the pot for the times where I have quads or I have 9-8. So I think I'm free rolling myself by calling because I don't see the chops. Although in game, I convinced myself that was happening. And I actually, the disclaimer here is that I used my entire time bank before calling. And it wasn't like I snapped off. It wasn't like I was like, oh, this is a nice spot. It was literally like me deciding whether or not imposition will ever try and make me fold a chop, because that's all I'm hoping for, really. And I don't think there's a pure bluff, that's for sure. So if I'm chopping however much percentage and then I am never winning the whole pot and I have other hands to call, it doesn't feel like a great spot, to be honest.
Yeah. And also, like, how much 8x does villain actually have? Like, how much 8x bets the 9 turn? Like, does 8-7 bet the 9 turn? Rarely, if ever, right? Like, it feels like... Yeah, this is actually... I'm going to give myself a 1 for my analysis of this hand on the river, because my analysis of this hand on the river was that of a 5-L player. It was basically like, hand is too good. If we're losing, we don't have to hate ourselves, therefore call, because, like, who can blame us? And this is so pathetic, but it's like, you see it all the time, and in students, right? Because all my students are fucking pathetic. I'm just kidding. But yeah, they do that, right? They sort of make these excuses and they say, if I lose, it's just bad, it's cooler.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. Like, not only does villain not really arrive with 8x on the river at much of a frequency, it's like borderline insane to bluff here. Like, I mean, like, throwing your money. Like, if you bluff this spot in real life, human versus human, you may as well just go out into the street with a big bucket of dollars and just pour it down a drain. Like,
Yeah,
that's
it's
basically
psychotic
what you're doing.
behavior. It's completely psycho.
It is. It's like you have to be like the most
Yeah.
disturbed person to bluff here. You have to be deeply like, if you bluff here, you should probably go for a psych eval and be locked away. I'm gonna go with that as my read.
And that's probably why I should fold. So it's a shame, but this hand would probably never have made the cut if I didn't call. So at least there's a good contention point. But you did give me a high score, which I think should be marked down.
I'm gonna mark down your score. You said it should be marked down to a 7, and I'm really angry at myself for my analysis. So I'm gonna take that out on you, and I'm gonna mark it down to a 6.5.
Okay, sure, that sounds reasonable.
Yep. Generally, it's
even
good
though
to take things out.
again, 99% of players just call the river.
Yeah, but you're BenaBadBeat. If anyone's going to fold here, you are the hero of YouTube. It needs to be you.
Oh, I was so close to. I can't even tell you. I like how close I was to folding as well. It's very, very sad.
Imagine the applause the editor would have put into the video right now had you folded here. Imagine those scenes.
Yeah.
Instead, editor, insert like 5 people clapping and like a really like low key gig. So that was a 6.5. This is hand number 8. We have the king 7 of diamonds, and we're going to go for the ISO against a limping fish, and he's going to call us. Do we know anything about said limping fish here?
Very, very passive, quite honest, would raise good hands, would kind of let you know how strong the hand was.
It's really nice of them, right? Really considerate sort of person.
Yeah, it's very, very considerate.
Sort of person you want to be friends with because you always know where you are with them. Okay, so we go small, and villain calls. And the turn is the 3 of spades. And we go quite big. Do I want to critique this for elasticity? I don't mind bluffing at all with the overcard. They have a lot of like mediocre stuff that just called a flop c-bet. I think I would just size down on the turn. I feel like we're missing an elasticity trick here, perhaps, where villain is probably similarly reactive to any sizing that's clearly a big bet, and therefore we don't actually need to go as big as 2/3 pot. On the 10 river, it looks like a reasonable spot just to stick it in. If they have a queen, they will never fold. If they have a pocket pair, they will probably fold a lot, given the player description. If they have a flush draw, they will fold. We unblock all flush draws in most pocket pairs. The king is a good card to have. Blocks king, queen off and stuff like that, that the really nitty ones will limp call. I like shoving. I like the river. I'm going to mark the turn down a bit for the sizing, perhaps. Although, if we are planning on just tripling against this guy, having more in the pot and the turn is not a terrible thing. Like, to win a bunch on the bet fold, the call fold line. I don't want to mark this hand down too much. I also don't think the hand's that difficult. I want to give this hand a 6. What do you think?
Yeah, seems completely reasonable. The reason I didn't size down on the turn was quite simply because I just was quite convinced that I'm absolutely max fold equity the turn. And I do think that there is an elasticity in the calling range from when I go big versus when I go half pot. So I think that it is perfectly reasonable to go this sizing. What I would say is I would prefer them to be deeper to size up, rather than being shallow, because as we know, recreationals, when they put in quite a lot of money and they see the pot's already a certain size, they are much more likely to put in the rest. So I can see 7.5 win blinds being better, but we are just going to get a lot of folds on the turn with this sizing. And maybe a hand like ace-10 does fold versus sizing, whereas it doesn't fold versus half pot. I don't think there's such a clear distinction between those two sizes.
Yeah, I was thinking like 9. And it's not a huge deal. It's 1.5 big blinds less, but I think 9 is perceived as a normal size bet, whereas like 7.5 is like suspiciously half pot, like obviously half pot. So I wouldn't go down as low as that.
Like, these are really important factors. If 9.5 is, or 9 big blinds is that much better, then it is that we need to do it for sure.
Long term, it adds up. Yeah, I mean, I may be wrong, but I think that's kind of my thinking here. Yeah, the other thing is like these short stack fish, they are also in just like a, if you zoom out and look at how their session or day is going, they've probably been losing and they're probably in a bit more of a desperate state than normal as well. So the fold equity can be diminished there. That said, I think it's such a good combo to bluff and the right kind of fish to bluff against that I still stand by it on the river. Okay, so let's stick with what did I say? 6 for this hand?
6. Yep.
Okay. All right, we have 2 hands to go. 5-4 of spades. Love a bit of cold call. 4-way action
wow,
here.
I'm so glad that you've chosen this hand. I was actually going to put this in one of my videos, so now I won't. And I'm kind of a little bit upset that the villain is going to see my combo in this hand as well, but you go for it.
We can cut it.
No. It's a very, it'll make this part of the episode.
Okay. So it checks round to us and we go for half pot, which I like because I think our betting range here will be built around good top pair, and this is a good multi-way sizing for good top pair. We're not invincible. We have more sets out against us with 3 opponents, but our hand is still worth more than 1/3 here. Our value hand, that is, if we have like King Jack, Ace Jack sets. Yeah, I think we probably do want to go this size here. This is also what I do, Ben. Yeah, this is what I do, mate. Yeah, just like BenaBadBeat's. See, I play
smart. You're a good player.
Yeah, mate. Thanks.
Recreational in the MP, by the way. It's
all right.
Recreational MP, then reg cutoff, and then reg big blind.
All right, cool. So cutoff calls. This was reg, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have a jack turn. What is his range? Like draws, flush draws, jack X. Under pair, probably 6-7, stuff like this. We have a
what's the worst hand you're going to bet the turn with?
Hey, who's the one on trial here, Ben? Me or you?
I mean, I just need to ask before you see what I do.
The worst? Do you mean the worst value hand or the most hopeless bluff? The worst value hand. Honestly, a jack, because
okay, cool.
I think in this spot it was 4-way on flop. If you start like betting 9s here or something, I think it's just too thin. I just don't think you should be open 9s. Okay, so we overbet. You're building. Do you build like one size? I know I'm not asking you too many questions, but do you build one size here?
Yeah, sure, go for it. Yeah, one size. Yeah.
Okay, so it's mainly Jack X plus. Yeah, that's similar to what I would do. This makes a lot of sense actually, if that's how you're constructing. Kind of like the 2E type thing, isn't it? And the river's a 10 of hearts. Villain checks again. God, this is ambitious. We do this. It's ambitious exploitatively, I think. And the reason I say that is that obviously we're attacking a very strong range here, right? We're attacking Jack X, and we're attacking bolts, and we're attacking flushes. Now, it's worth asking, what does villain have to do with that range? Assuming he doesn't call much worse than that on turn, and if he does call 10s, that's actually just hit the full house of potatoes, which is not good. You don't want a house full of potatoes, you just want some of them in your house. So when we do this, if villain is not folding a jack, then this is an absolute disaster.
Fucking right, it is, yeah.
If villain is folding a jack, it's okay. Probably. I don't know what the EV would be, but like, they still have flushes, and they still have some boltage here, and they still have jack 10. I can't see how this wins in real life. Like, even though GTO requires us to have some bluff region, and even though I kind of know what you're thinking here, I think, which is that how do we not have it here? Like, how do we get here with nothing? In this spot, we've just bet flop and turn. Flop was 4-way. We just bet turn in a spot where most of our draws are flush draws. 4-5 suited is like 4 combos. So, of course, in GTO, what should probably happen is we should shove this hand, because, like, what else do we shove? We don't have... Do we have, like, ace-queen with ace of hearts sometimes? Maybe we do have that at some frequency, actually.
3-bet always because of the recreational opening.
Of course you would, yeah.
Just to mention, the cutoff doesn't ever have 10s, because... or jack 10, because they would also 3-bet the recreational. Cold calling, like, in the cutoff versus the recreational with 3 regs behind, who are going to squeeze when your range is so clearly completely weak. It just doesn't happen. People are not cold calling recreationals. Like,
fair.
As you know, of course, no one does. Unless there's like really weak regs behind, which maybe he does perceive me as one of those. But generally speaking, not going to happen.
So what does that mean for us? It probably means that villain just has less Jack X as well, right? Because a lot of the Jack X is just going to 3-bet pre for a similar reason. but they're going to have some of that, but hardly any. And then they're going to have threes and sixes at a higher frequency than normal, and then flushes at a higher frequency than normal. So does that push the opponent's range more towards like flush plus, in that case, by the river? If it does, I can't see how this can be winning. I don't know. I'm going to go with my gut, and then I think we're going to have a discussion about this, but I'm going to go with my gut here, which is that this is underfolded, like heavily. But I like the fact that like if we don't bluff here, we're not bluffing ever, basically. Because like you said, we don't have ace queen with ace of hearts. So it's like, if villain's good enough, they're probably indifferent with like 8-7 of hearts here.
So
I haven't given a score.
Things. So what score have you given me? Sorry,
I haven't given a score. I'm gonna give it. I really like the turn. I think the river is like maybe underfolded. I'm gonna go with a 5 because I like the way you played it up until the river, and then I think the river might be just losing, and that's why it's gonna even out at a 5. But let's talk about it.
So I think first and foremost is that the flushes don't exist in the range apart from exactly Jack X of hearts and nut hearts. So when I overbet the turn, when OOP has a nut flush draw and they are considering their option versus overbet, they are not only going to assume that they might be dead, but they're also going to assume what implied odds do they have when they have a naked nut flush draw versus my jack when it comes a heart on the river. So I think for that reason alone, they're going to be folding turn with like flush draws, and they certainly aren't going to have the low ones. So that's just going to be like a portion of the range that doesn't exist. That said, there will be a bunch of Jack X of hearts, but they are not going to be the only combos. By the river, I don't believe that OOP is going to call Jack X unless it is Jack X of hearts. And that's simply based on 4-way to the flop, as you said. How can you possibly someone be bluffing this spot? But also, it's just extraordinarily unlikely that a flush is going to be good or trips is going to be good in this spot, just in like not because of the spot in general, just based on like my turn sizing mainly.
Yeah, I think those are really good points. Okay.
So it's like, yeah, so it's not even just overfolded, it's just like impossible to call correctly in this spot for our position.
Yeah, I think I got this quite wrong because I forgot my initial analysis about pre-flop and the fact there was a recreational player there and gave villain like way too many good hands here. And then secondly, yeah, like if I had a jack here, you're right, like I would be extremely unwilling to put any more money in the pot in this river. Even with Jack X of hearts, I'd still be like, oh god. And yeah, the point about the nut flush draw is really interesting. Like, I'm just not thinking on enough of a high stakes kind of level here. You're right. I mean,
it's something, but maybe some people would call that, to be honest, but I think it's unlikely.
No,
I just want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
And now I can't remember what I was going to say. I also think pocket 3s and 6s are massively underrepresented from the cutoff. I think that they get bet in position when the recreational checks to them, at least some of the time, and also check raise some of the time. And on the turn, it probably does get called, admittedly, but they're at least you're losing maybe 33% of the combos of those combos.
Okay, so you mentioned before that you thought Jack 10 was getting pure 3-bet pre. What Jack X suited do you think is here? Is it just like Jack 8 of hearts and stuff like that then?
It's very you made that was the other, that's what was the points I forgot to mention. Yeah, like Queen Jack, Ace Jack, and King Jack also will get 3-bet pre-flop. So it's like literally like Jack 9 of hearts or something like that, which is it's just like the value range just shrinks drastically, like to a monumental degree. And actually, this player ended up tanking entire. You've seen it fold entire time bank, and then ended up like throwing some emojis and then folding. I was actually, as I said, umming and ahhing as to whether or not I wanted to post this because it's just super outrageous.
This is such an insane hand. Like this hand is blowing my mind. I like took my 25 NL Gauntlet coach lens to this, but like now that we've discussed it, I can see that it's just completely different to like what I thought. Like it's such a weird spot, such a hard one to get your head around, but I think I'm starting to. And I definitely like this a lot more now. It's almost like we're saying none of the hands are in villain's range. Villain has a ghost range. He has 2 transparent cards. It's like he's some kind of specter here. It's like he can't have anything. But like if he does have to have something, we're saying it's like the Jack 7 of clubs or the Jack 8 of hearts or like some range around there, and we're thinking he's going to fold a lot of that. Yeah, not betting 3s and 6s with only one player left behind on flop is super weird. I didn't do enough like retracing and hand reading here. This is a hand where there are so many eye-opening, like telling actions that happen earlier that you almost have to be like a detective here and follow the trail, right? And like look at all the various things that have happened, all the various table conditions, to then get to this spot where, yeah, I just didn't understand it at first glance here, but now
it's a silly hand, to be honest.
I think you're right though. You've obviously thought about this a lot, and I think I agree that it'll be impossible for anyone to want to call this river, even if they do have like Jack X of hearts here. I wouldn't be shocked for them to just think that you have 3s and 6s just way too often and just aren't going to want to bluff this note, and I could see them folding it sometimes, right? So I'm actually going to give this hand, I want to upgrade your score significantly based on this. I think this is a really well played hand now, and I'm going to give you another 9. I think this hand is like against the right player, against the thinking reg. This is just really good now.
I have no idea if it's worth a 9, but I'm definitely think it's worth an upgrade, so I'll take it.
All right. All right, Ben, you're setting a good pace here for the 1KNL season of Poker Gauntlet. If you're a 1KNL player and you're watching this, even if you don't normally do YouTube content, even if like you're not a personality, get in touch with me. Add me on Discord, carrots with a Z at the end, 9127, or email me, pete@carrotcorner.com, and say, I want to be on the 1KNL Poker Gauntlet, because this is really fun. This is a nice change from 25NL. All right, last hand. This has been fun. Let's see if we can finish off here with a good score. We have King 9 of hearts in the button. We open, we get called by the big blind. It goes...
This hand, as if we're ending with this one. Oh my god. Okay.
We bet big.
Big blind is so aggressive recreational. Insanely aggressive recreational.
Okay, helpful. Jack of hearts on the turn. We go for another value bet, which I like against insanely loose, splashy recreational. I think like this pot remaining 11 big blinds when we have this hand against this player type is actually a bit of a sin. So like betting again seems good. Easy call. And we have the 5 of clubs on the river. Well, villain shoves. Wouldn't be in the video if he didn't, right? If he just checked and you checked back, this probably wouldn't be on Gauntlet, so no surprises here. Insanely aggressive recreational. Yeah, so we have this like dichotomy here, like in one hand, in one horn of the dilemma here, you have the fact that like lots of stuff just got there and villain check raised the turn and jammed the river. So like against like a normal player, this is a very easy fold. Like there's just not much to really even say about it, I don't think. It's just the wrong hand to want to call this river with. And then we'd want to overfold anyway. But against someone insanely aggressive, there can be no limit to what they're doing. Like if they've called the flop, like some of these really aggro guys, right? Like when you bet the flop here, they can call with a lot of stuff they're not meant to. First of all, they can float you with the king jack of diamonds just for the hell of it. They can just do that whole 2006, high stakes poker, I'm going to float the flop and take it away from you later type shit. They don't have the normal standards. So there could be a lot of combos of like king 10, queen 10, and 10-8 and stuff in this range that are bluffing here.
And some jack X probably.
And maybe even, it's like that kind of crazy whale, like merge top pair sort of stuff.
Potentially.
Yeah, so this is where it gets a bit icky then, because like
that's the dichotomy though, isn't it?
Yeah, we may question whether the king 9 is even a bluff catch now, or whether it's like losing to the spew merge type stuff. We do call the river. I mean, I can't hate it that much against the recreational player of this description, because there's just so much random shit here, and we need to be good like 36% of the time, or some 34% of the time. So I don't think I hate it as the description is. I would normally hate it. It is a terrible card to call on, and it's a terrible hand to call. With the king of hearts here. It's such a hard thing to actually score, because I just don't know the player enough.
Like it's a hand that doesn't add any value to the gauntlet, because it's so all over the place.
It's just like so specific. It's like when a student shows me this kind of hand and they're like, oh, villain's crazy. He's definitely bluffing here with like the king 4 of spades. And I'm like, what do you want me to fucking do, man? Like, what do you want me to do? Like, just give you a pat in the back because you've got the read that the guy can have anything? Or also,
Yeah,
like, tell you
exactly.
it's bad even though you've got a read that tells you should call? These hands are useless, Ben. Why did you bring this hand to me?
You're the one who chose the
We
hand.
don't talk about these. Editor cut out where it was exposed. No, don't really. I'm joking. This is, yeah, I'm just going to say, like, I trust you in this spot to do a decent job of weighing up the craziness. You've got enough experience against guys like this. I'm just going to go ahead and give you a 6.5 because I think you found quite a nice turn bet here that a lot of people wouldn't find necessarily against this player. And I'm going to reserve judgment on whether I like the river call because I just don't know. I would need to like
Sure.
intimately know the villain to say whether it's right or wrong.
So I would just argue the score needs to come down again. And the
Mhm.
reason I think the score needs to come down is that I I I definitely was certain that they were a crazy villain, but I wasn't certain that they could merge Jam a Jack. And I think the fact that they can merge Jam a Jack is pretty dicey to say the least. That doesn't.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that that makes my hand a fold by any means. I'm just saying that that's got to kind of impact the scoring a bit. Um, and it's very hard not to be results oriented because obviously I know the result of the hand. So
Yeah.
it's hard, but I think it probably the score should come down maybe a little bit just for that reason. But it's a pretty well played hand overall, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll take it down to 5.5 then.
Sure.
All right. 5.5 out of 10 is the final score. Villain on this occasion. Countdown from 3. Editor.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! What do you reckon they have?
Pause the countdown, editor. I think they have. I'm gonna go something mental. I'm gonna go for the Queen 8 of diamonds.
Oh, so close.
Just for fun.
Well, kind of close. Kind of worse than that.
Yeah, so this is what I mean. Like, if they can have anything. So if the student says to me, "Oh, villain's so wild. Like, they can have anything. Is my call okay?" It's like, you do the math with that read. What am I here for? To like put numbers in a calculator for you? Clearly good if that's
Yeah.
the read. If you don't have that read and you're just like, "Oh, the guy seemed a bit aggro. It's a terrible call." It's all about strength of read. I had a lesson, Ben, with a student the other day where he played this live hand. I'm going to tell you this hand, right? I'm going to finish off with the live hand. So he has
Yeah.
queens, and he goes ahead and let me just recall the action for a second. So he has queens with a queen of diamonds, and he's in the big blind, and it gets opened, and he opens under the gun, and there's like 2 fish call or something, and a guy that was described as a fairly aggressive London reg from Hong Kong or something like that, I think was the description. I don't know if you know this sort of player that like plays in Empire, but this is kind of like your scene. I know you were just in London, so it's like one of these types. And it's a 1-2 game, right? So it's not going to be like a high stakes player or
Yeah.
something, but he squeezes like fairly big. And we 4-bet the queens. And the student's rationale here was we think he's getting really out of line just with the multiple recreationals. He could be really, really wide here. We're gonna 4-bet queens. So we 4-bet queens. The flop comes Ace King X, and obviously calls the 4-bet. The red calls the 4-bet. And this guy, the description is capable of bluffing, seems aggro, has attacked me in the past type description, right? So flop comes Ace King X and big blind checks, and we go for like a really small C bet and big blind calls. The turn is like a 2-tone brick, so it's like Ace King 7-5 or something like that. And it goes check, check. And then on the river, villain jams for just over the pot. The student calls, and the read was,
Oh no.
well, this was my initial reaction. The read was, this guy's capable. I think he would turn his 10s and jacks into a bluff here, right? And my argument was, that is so far from what normally happens that if you want to make a claim that strong, you have to be very, very certain, and you need a very
Yeah.
specific human read on that individual person. You can't just be like, he seems kind of aggro, therefore he's probably doing something that a tiny fraction of pool do. So I think that illustrates what goes on in hands like this, where,
Yeah.
we need a very individual, specific read to make that kind of like extreme deviation.
100%. And I think in that exact situation, the call is not good. Because it sounds like we also have a couple of pretty terrible blockers too, like Queen Jack as well.
Yeah.
and it's not going to go so well for us. Did we win? That's the main thing, though.
No. Villain had
Shock.
Ace King Pretty sure.
Truly surprising result.
No, villain had kings. Villain had kings.
There you go. Bluffing.
Yep. All right, so that was a fun little live hand, Ben. This has been a pleasure as always. I am exhausted. I found that like really fun but really taxing, and I hope you guys at home liked it. Anything you want to let people be aware of? Anything you're doing on your own channel or stuff they should check out with you?
No, not really. Actually, I'm just going to continue making content. I would just say that I appreciate you looking at the hands, and I think actually there is some kind of not quite appropriate thought process that I've been having. I think overall I played pretty well, and I was like deciphering what was going on in hands, and I still feel like I am. But like the queens with the queen of spades, that was just like a really sloppy, fearful play and decision. Even though I didn't feel scared or whatever in the game, it just wasn't well thought through, and like that's just like it'll happen. But just kind of you bringing it in, bringing it to my attention is like, yeah, it's really helpful. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and thank you for basically schooling me on the intricacies of that second last hand. This one is going to like remain in my subconscious for a long time. I think my brain's going to process this for like months. It's just going to be like I'm gonna be dreaming about this spot. But yeah, crazy spot. All right, we'll check out Ben's YouTube channel, guys. What's the channel called?
BenaBadBeat Poker.
Yep, and his series is awesome. Road Back to High Stakes, where he sits in his kitchen, he describes how the week went, shows you a little graph, and then goes over some really, really cool hands. I think the hands are really well chosen, and they're always mega exciting, basically. So definitely recommend checking that out. I'd also recommend checking out Carrot Corner if you want to keep watching me ramble about poker. And yeah, we will see you back here for more Carrot Corner content very soon. Thanks again, Ben, and all the best in your next sample. I hope you start running a bit better.
Cheers, Pete. See you later.
See you later. Hey guys, it's me. I'm back here on my own. As you can see, Ben is no longer here. The hand is gone. It's just me in this empty black space. And the reason for that is that Ben and I fell out horrendously at the end of the call. He said that my coaching was terrible, that he just was polite for the cameras, and actually he thought that I was wrong about every score, and he contested every score, but he just didn't want to say so on my channel. And he said that he would never work with me again, and I said some things that I regret in response. I called him a bald idiot. So, yeah, that's where we are. Not really, guys, just kidding. I forgot completely to tell you guys the score because Ben and I were having so much fun. I forgot it was even Gauntlet. It was that much fun. Lovely chap. We'll have him back on the channel very soon. But the final score is 63 for Ben. He's no longer here. We'll put that 63 in his camera box. There we go. 63 out of 100. I think that's a decent score, but this is the 1KNL season. I need another 9 1KNL players. If you're famous or not, it doesn't matter. If you play 1KNL, get in touch, because I want to run the 1KNL season of the Gauntlet. I'm also going to run the 50NL season soon as well, though. But yeah, I'd say a pretty solid start to the 1KNL season. Maybe this is the only ever episode that will happen. Maybe someone will come on the show and try and beat Ben 63. That would be fun. I'd love to have another chat with a 1KNL player, get them on to actually appeal and question my sometimes dubious verdicts. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you for more content very soon. Hope you fell for my little joke there as well. I've run that one before on the channel, so you probably didn't, but let me know if you did in the comments. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.